Hi, hello, welcome. My name is Wendy Martinez. I am a geek, and today we are going to be doing a reading vlog that I'm excited for because I've been wanting to do this for a very long time, since like December, okay? And I haven't done it yet, but I'm excited to do it. And that is, I'm going to be reading random wrapped up books. Call it blind date with my TBR. Call it reading wrapped up books. Call it whatever it is, whatever you'd like, but I'm doing it. I am going to be picking 3 different books from my wrapped books collection, and I'm going to be picking 3 from here, and then I'm going to be doing a whole reading vlog. We have a combination of pretty much every single genre you can think of. We have contemporary, we have romance, we have fantasy romance, we have thriller, we have horror. We have everything wrapped up here, and I am so excited to do this, to just get through my TBR. So let's go ahead and get started. I have all the little TBR numbers in here mixed with my TBR prompts, but I kind of can tell what paper is which because the brown one is thicker and that's where the numbers are. Let's just go ahead and dip our hand in here and grab a random prompt. What is going to be the first book that I read? Number two in my TBR is the very first. All right, so here I have book number 2. Let's open this up. See what we have. I'm not gonna look at it. I'm not gonna look at it until it's all open. Okay, I'm hoping it's the book that I'm hoping for, if that makes any sense. I'm not looking. Gosh, I like tape these up real good. The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. Okay, yes, I could go for this one. So, okay, yes, I'm excited for. All I know is that this one is by a Mexican author and it takes place in Mexico, and it is a horror book. And I've been wanting to read horror, so I'm excited to read this. So I will keep you guys updated with how this is. So let's get on to the reading vlog for this one, and then we'll move on to the second book and then the third. Okay, so I just finished chapter 1 of the Hacienda, and so far it's okay. I do really love like the lyrical writing. For example, like, let me give you an example right here. It says, "It is said that mortal life is empty without the love of God, that the ache of loneliness wounds is assuaged by," I think that's assuaged, "by obedience to him, for in serving God we encounter perfect love and are made whole. But if God is the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, if he is 3 in 1 in the Trinity, then God knows nothing of loneliness." And so he's talking about loneliness in like such a lyrical way that I think it's very beautiful. But I don't know if I'm just like stressed out or I'm just like thinking about too many things that I just can't seem to concentrate on the book. So I will continue to read this, but so far I think the writing is very beautiful, very lyrical, very poetic, but I just have a hard time concentrating right now. I don't know why. Alright, so I am officially 106 pages into the Hacienda by Isabel Cañas, and I wanted to give you guys an update because I know my last update was only on chapter 1, which was like 3 pages in, but now things are starting to get a little bit more interesting. Beatrice has officially moved into the Hacienda, which is basically, if you guys don't know, it's kind of like a, do you ever have to make like those missions in like elementary school, those like missionary thingies? Do you know what I mean? It looks kind of like that. That's the Hacienda. And so she moved into this big mansion, basically Hacienda, and she is starting to realize that it is haunted because she's starting to hear whispers, she's starting to see things, and she even gets help from the priest. And the priest obviously doesn't, like, he's like, "Oh no, you're crazy." Like, she's like, "Oh, I saw a dead body."
And when she goes to the wall where the dead body was, the wall's like covered, it's not even open. And he's like, you're crazy, blah, 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 writes her husband a letter. And he's like, hey, your wife is like, she's like talking nonsense. And so her husband like gets mad at her. And so we're starting to see things, but there is one priest that does believe her. So she just asked him for his help. Now he's going to go over to the house to basically try to perform an exorcism and try to get rid of the ghosts. And the priest that we follow is the same priest from the beginning where I showed you guys that little like beautiful passage that I found. It's that priest. So I'm like wondering, because he's a very young priest and he hasn't taken all his oaths, and the main character is constantly talking about how he's attractive. I'm wondering if there's going to be like some sort of like love situation, if they fall in love, because we already know she's not in love with her husband and she married him mainly for stability. So I'm wondering if there's going to be like a romance that ensues between this priest and the girl. So I'm very curious about that. But other than that, it's very slow paced. And I think my problem with historical fiction is that I know that, historically speaking, no matter where you were in the world, a lot of times women were seen as like the weak ones. Women were submissive to their husbands. Women were submissive to men. Women were not seen as much other than like the breeders and the housekeeper people. And that's the problem, I guess, that I have with historical fiction, because I know when I'm reading historical fiction and we're talking about women, we're mainly going to see that. Women being abused and taken advantage of just because simply we're women. And I don't like that. And I guess that's why I'm not a big fan of historical fiction. And we are seeing that with this. So I guess that's my only issue, but it's a personal issue that I have, I guess. But other than that, it's starting to get interesting. It's not scary, and I really wanted something that would scare me, but so far it hasn't. But I can see these little like mind games that the ghosts are playing with our main characters, so that's pretty interesting. So that's my thoughts right now, and yes, we shall see as we continue on with this wrapped book that I picked out how it goes. Hello, currently about halfway through the Hacienda while watching some booktube and honestly this is picking up the pace. I am loving this like forbidden romance that is going between, I think it's going to be a forbidden romance between like the priest and our main character Beatrice. Gives me like priest vibes. And I think there is something like I'm starting to like kind of piece together things, and I wonder if what I think is going to be the ending is what happens. Like I'm starting to sort of come to my conclusions. We will see. I hope it throws like a twist in there, but as of right now, it's pretty predictable. At least I think it is. Alright, you guys. Okay, so we are back with a review on The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. I finished this one finally, and I have to say, it was interesting. It was interesting. Like, the horror starts right away. So in this, overall, we follow our main character named Beatriz as she moves into this hacienda because she wants a better life for herself and her mother after her father, the general, is found to be a traitor and ends up being unalived. Her and her mother are forced to sort of go into another family member's home and are forced to work there as basically like a servant, but then Beatriz gets the opportunity to marry another wealthy man who is the owner of a hacienda and basically is able to provide a new future for a new life for her and her mother, but her mother refuses to go because she thinks that this man or this man's father or this man's family has worked with the enemy of their father, and she has too much pride to go to that. And so Beatriz ends up going herself to this hacienda, and at first things are, subtle things start to happen and Beatrice just kind of shrugs it off. And then once her husband leaves, she realizes that there is something supernatural happening at this hacienda. And one day she is walking around when a wall sort of opens up and a body is found. And Beatrice is like, oh my gosh, there's a body. She goes to the husband's sister and tells her, hey, I found a body in the wall. And she just looks at her like she's crazy. She tries to get the priest to help. The priest doesn't want to help. And then there's another younger priest that actually ends up being a witch that does in fact help her because he knows the history of this hacienda. And we have a lot of like gothic elements to it. We have, since it is in a time period where women were just sort of seen as like, oh, the households, they have less value and say so than the men. It was an interesting concept. It was an interesting concept. I found the writing was very beautiful. I really enjoyed the writing. The pacing was very slow. It was very much a slow paced horror book, and even when we got supernatural elements and elements where the horror got put into play, it wasn't something that had me at the edge of my seat. And I found myself that at the very end, I sort of already knew what was going to happen. I knew how this whole thing was going to wrap up. I knew who was going to be responsible for the hauntings because it kind of tells you at the very beginning. So I don't know if that was meant to be a mystery. And I just felt like there was also questions that like the main character notices things and she doesn't say these things to the person that's helping her, like, hey, I noticed that these voices are saying this. What do you think? And she talks about everything else but what happens to end up being the reason for the hauntings. And it was just, I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about this. I did have a fun time reading this. I did think it was very slow paced, but at the same time, I didn't find myself too bored because it did have something in it that just was very beautiful to me, that kept me reading, that didn't at all make me feel like I want to put it down and not look at it for a while. I didn't ever get the feeling to DNF it, even though it was slow paced and I'm not a slow paced sort of person. There was just something about it that just like kept me reading it. But I just felt like there were things in here that I don't know if it was meant to be predictable. I don't know if it was, there were just some things, some questions that I had that were just never truly answered. And I just feel like it was very obvious from the very beginning. And I don't know if that was the point, but I never got the feeling that that was the point. And I don't know, I just have mixed feelings with this book. Our main character, Beatrice, has an interesting personality. I feel like she goes back and forth about like, I'm gonna take charge, and then kind of regresses a little bit and is like, oh, but this isn't, this is my home, but it's not my home, which I get, because when you're in a new place, you don't know where you stand, and you kind of see that inner struggle within her of like, this is my home, but it's not my home. And she doesn't truly know where she stands, and she doesn't know how much she can push before she realizes that she pushed too far. And I don't know, overall I'm going to give it a 3.5 stars. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't like the best book ever as well. I am definitely interested in reading more by Isabel Cañas. And yeah, that's all I have to say. There was just something in this that kept me reading, even though it was slow paced. So, and oh, the romance. There's this weird forbidden romance, but I didn't hate it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I actually kind of liked it. Yeah. That's all I have to say. I don't even want to say with who because I don't want to ruin anything. But anyways, that is my review on the Hacienda. So I'm glad that I finally read this because it has been on my TBR for so long. So again, 3.5 out of 5 stars. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. So now let's go ahead and unwrap another book and read that one. And so now that that one's done and over with, let's go ahead and pick our next wrapped surprise book. Number 14. So let's go ahead and grab
we have number 14, as you can see. So we're going to open that one up right here. You can see it's number 14. And this one is really tiny. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is. I think it's a hardcover. I don't remember what small hardcovers do I have that aren't that thick. I don't want to look until like it's all open. It feels soft. Why does it feel soft? Ferryman by Claire McFall. Okay, I've been holding off on reading this one. My friend gifted this to me a very long time ago, but I'm not a fan of YA, and this is like one of her favorite books, so we'll see how this goes. I don't know too much of what this is about, but my friend gave it to me, so I have to read it. I know it's a fantasy romance. That's YA, and it's tiny, so hopefully I can read this fast. Oh yeah, and the text is huge, so I can hopefully read this really quick. We'll see how this is, you guys. I have my doubts for this one, but we shall see. You know I'm not a YA girly. We'll see.
All right, so I have read chapter 1 of Ferryman, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, I am just not feeling it, okay? And I know I could easily continue and be like, oh, maybe it'll get better, but here's the thing. I just found out that this is a series, and this is book 1, meaning there's more. And I have no interest. I don't even have interest in finishing this one. So I have no interest in continuing the series. So what's the point? Like, what's the point to even continue? I read chapter 1. It's so, like, juvenile. And, like, that's okay. Some people enjoy YA, and that's fine. That's okay. You know, like, some people don't like my favorite books, and that's fine. But for me, for my reading taste, personally, I can't. I don't think I can do this. So I think I'm going to DNF it, even if I just read one chapter. Like, we follow our main character, and she is going to this school, and she's wearing this, like, shirt, and then her shirt, she ends up being in the rain, and her shirt's see-through, and it's like, haha, everybody's making fun of her, and it's just, like, so, like, I do like the feeling of nostalgia that I get when I was a teenager, but at the same time, I'm like, is that going to be enough for me to want to continue? And I don't think so. So, yes, it's very early on, but the fact that this is a series, and I already have little interest in finishing this, I know I'm never going to read the series, so I'm going to DNF it now. So there's this one. The end.
So now we have our final pick. So, getting this one. Why can't I find a number? I wonder, okay, I'm gonna put the cap on. It sucks because, like, a lot of the numbers are all the way at the bottom. I dropped so many, like, different, like, TBR prompts. So I'll grab this one. We got number 6. Okay, so we have our last prompt here, number 6. And then we have book number 6. I'm hoping this is from Blood and Ash, because this is, like, the only, like, fantasy romance that I really am in the mood for. Like, I really want to read that one. But we'll see. It's a hardcover, which means that it's fantasy or fantasy romance. I don't think I have too many thick horror hardcovers. I do have a few. So it could be one of the horrors. It actually feels like it might be. It doesn't feel like from Blood and Ash. Oh my gosh, I think this is a horror. I think this is... No! I was totally wrong. I thought this was going to be out there screaming. But we have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is, I guess, a nice break from the fantasy romance and the fantasy. In this one, we follow our main characters over the course of many, many years. And I think they're best friends and they end up creating like a video game together. And then we just sort of follow their lives over and their expanse of their friendship as they get older and older and seeing this game like progress. So I'm excited. I heard that this one's very cry-worthy. It won like Book of the Year award for Book of the Year for 2022. So we shall see. I'm excited. So let's jump into this last reading vlog for this one.
Alright, you guys, so I have finished chapter 1 of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and so far, first impressions, we are following Sam and Sadie. So basically it's told in third person point of view, and Sam is this Jewish boy that grew up really enjoying video games, and he went to this school with another girl named Sadie, and they always just kind of eyed each other and were very like interested in each other, but they never really talked. And then there is this whole event that goes on at their colleges, and Sam is now going to Harvard and Sadie is going to MIT, and they come together at like this train station and they get to talking, and they both are still super into video games. And so when Sadie's about to leave, Sam is hesitant on asking for her number or for her email because he's just nervous, he's scared, and in his head he makes up these scenarios when he doesn't take advantage of a situation. He thinks of a scenario where like Sadie did something bad, and he's done this since like childhood. But Sadie turns around and gives him a copy of her new video game that she's working on, and Sam takes it home, shows it, and his friend sees it, and they think they were only going to play it for about like 5 minutes, and they actually in fact end up playing the whole playthrough in one go, which is about an hour worth of gaming. And they both agree that it's like amazing, that Sadie is absolutely brilliant. And so Sam is now thinking that Sadie's an absolute genius, and he's going to let her know that in her email. And so far, honestly, it's so good. And I don't know if it's because it's been a long time since I've read any contemporary fiction, like any fiction that sort of takes place nowadays in this day and age. It's rare when I read that now because I've been reading so much fantasy and romantasy that it's nice to kind of get back to the real world, I guess. So I'm really enjoying this so far. I definitely want to keep going. It has pretty much hooked me. I like the author's writing style. What I don't like is how close together all the font is, if you can see what I mean. I don't know, I just think a little bit more of a gap would have been nice, but other than that, it's really captivating me. I'm really intrigued at Sadie and Sam, and I know they have like a friendship that's going to sort of develop, and I think they're going to like build a video game together. That's all I know about this book, and I'm very excited to see what happens with these two characters and how they go about creating this game. And so far I just get like very comfy, cozy vibes, but it's still yet captivating for some reason. So I'm very excited to keep on going with this. So let's see how this goes. Hello everybody. So I'm on page 202 of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. So I am about halfway through, a little bit, literally like just a tiny insy-wincy bit more than halfway through. And I don't know what it is about this story that's just so enchanting and mesmerizing. I don't know if it's the way that it was written, but I cannot stop reading. Like, it's so, I don't know. I think it's like the complexities of the way that the author writes people. I feel like they're very complex, and it makes them so relatable that you can't help but feel like these are real people. the problems that Sam, one of the main characters, goes through. He has a disability, and the issues that he goes with throughout his health and mentally because of it, and physically. And it's just, these characters are so well written that they feel like real people to me. These feel like authentic friends or people that I know, and you can't help but like just keep reading. And I've never read a book that was so character driven that had me mesmerized. I've read one book from Gabrielle Zevin before when I was a kid, and it was called Elsewhere. That's the only book that I've ever written by Gabrielle Zevin. I can't remember how much or how little I liked it, but it's just crazy to me. Like, this book is so good, and I just can't even pinpoint. It's the characters. I've never read a book where I'm invested in the characters so much, you know? Like, it's usually the plot or the romance or just something else, but it's never been the complexities of characters' personalities. I don't know. This is different, but like in the most beautiful way. I'm really enjoying this, like, a lot. Hello, we are back with Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, the final book review. I'm sorry. Okay, so we are back, and I finished this, and honestly, I'm shocked. I am shooketh, okay, because I thought I didn't like literary fiction. Is this considered literary fiction? I want to say it's literary fiction, okay? I thought I didn't like that genre, or I thought I didn't like it as much as I used to. But reading this, I realized I effing love it. What am I thinking? I just probably wasn't in the mood for it for a certain time, but I love this genre, and I love this book. Needless to say, this book was phenomenal. The characters felt so realistic, and in this let me get into the synopsis. In this story, we follow our main characters, Sadie and Sam, and they are best friends. And we follow them from when they are 11 and 12 years old all the way until their late 30s. So we follow them over the course of almost 30 years. And we see them as they play video games together for the first time, and then they go to college, and then they decide to make a video game together, and then we see them as they break into their success, basically, and they become successful at creating these video games, and we see their friendship as it, you know, changes over time, and it's just so real. This book is just so real and raw, and I loved it. It was like a breath of fresh air from all the fantasy that I've been reading, all the other genres that I've been reading, just to see how complex humans in reality really are. I loved it. I loved seeing the main characters go through things that we face in our daily lives. Our existential crisis that I've been having lately, actually, our age as we get older, and how we like just blink, and in a matter of like a blink, we suddenly go from being the youngest person in the room to the oldest person in the room, and just how this book just dives into so much, and it's just so beautiful. Like, I loved it so much, and I loved how it ended. I loved how it began. I loved how it ended. There was nothing that I did not like about this book. It was beautiful. It was literally like a masterpiece. I just think Gabrielle Zevin did such an amazing job at taking human beings and actually making them feel like real human beings. Do you get what I mean? The 11 and 12-year-old really felt like an 11 and 12-year-old, wondering what things that 11 and 12-year-old kids think, you know, because I have a 12-year-old, so I know. Do you get what I mean? And we remember being kids, so it's just, I loved it, and I loved how we see them mature, you know, we see them as they are college students, and then how they think they have it all, and then we see them as they go into adulthood, and we see how much they mature even more, and thinking that they knew everything in their
early 20s and they're in their late teens, and how just, I don't know, there's just so much to this book that I really loved. And I feel like in the end, it almost, to me, it felt kind of like a message for like the meaning of life, which is to do what you love, you know? Do what makes you happy for as long as you can. Like, that's the meaning of life, according to Tomorrow to me, is as long as you're doing what you love, you know, your life is worthwhile. And that it doesn't matter if you're doing something grand, like creating a video game, or if you're doing something as small as like owning a farm or, you know, taming horses. It doesn't matter that your life is worthwhile no matter how extravagant or how not extravagant you live, as long as you were happy, as long as you were doing what you love, that your life is worthwhile. And I just thought it was beautiful, and it came at a time that like I needed to hear it. And I have nothing bad to say about this book. It's literally probably one of my favorite books of this year so far already. I wouldn't be surprised if this book landed in my top 10 for 2024, because I loved it. I loved it so much, and I want to go back and reread it one day and highlight it and annotate the shiznit out of it, because there are so many good quotes that had so much meaning to it. They quoted Shakespeare, and it's just like all these artists, you know, like they just, it's just literally a masterpiece. And like there's no other way to say it, but it was a masterpiece. I loved it, and I'm shocked that I loved it. And I don't know if it's because I had such low expectations that I'm like shocked that I went up, because I read one other book by Gabrielle Zevin when I was younger called Elsewhere, and that one was good, but this is like, she obviously has gotten older, her writing has gotten more mature, and this was amazing. Like, I have nothing else to say about it, but like this book blew me away, and I am shocked at how much I enjoyed this. I didn't even know that I enjoyed this genre as much as I did, but now I'm gonna have to start reading more literary fiction, I guess. Is that the genre? Contemporary fiction? Contemporary fiction. Literary fiction. Yeah, I'm gonna have to read more of that, because obviously it's my jam, okay? We like this. We like this genre. There we go. I found a new genre that I love, and I'm just so, I loved this. I loved this so much. I loved it. So that's my review for tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. So that was my very first blind picking my TBR and then reading the books. This was honestly really fun. Like, opening the books blindly was like a really fun experience. It was literally like opening a birthday present, you know, and getting what I love most, which is books, you know, materialistically wise, what I love most. So that was a really fun experience. Okay, I had a lot of fun, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun too. So you guys haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to be notified when I post, because I'm going to be doing more of these, because I love doing them. So I hope that you like seeing them, because there will be plenty more, because I want to do more, because I like this content, okay? Anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you. If you haven't yet, again, hit that subscribe button. Yeah, and turn on that notification bell to be notified when I post. If you haven't, please follow me on my Booktok. And yeah, that's it. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.